Hello everyone and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Notorious Dub and today I'm going to be going over one of the most important and most difficult skills to get right in Valorant, retaking a bomb site after the attackers already have control of it. Now to do this I'm going to be going over everything from how quickly you should be playing in different scenarios, understanding how many enemies are alive and how that's going to affect the angles they're playing, isolating sections of the site, and playing together to take control of critical areas, and finally we'll be looking at some pro footage to see what else we can learn from seeing the best players in the world take back control of a bomb site. But before we get into that, do you find yourself struggling to win gunfights? Are you a bit lost on what you should be doing in game? Or maybe you find yourself stuck at your current rank? Well, don't worry, as our brand new hyper improvement system is specifically designed to solve these problems. At SkillCapped.com, you'll finally learn how to improve your aim, different techniques to win gunfights, and so much more. We have professional courses on every single agent, map, and mechanic in Valorant. This is also backed by top pros, players, and coaches to make sure you're getting the most up-to-date and accurate information possible. In fact, we're so confident that you'll improve using our system that we offer a rank improvement guarantee. Check it out yourself in the link below, simply put in what rank you're currently stuck at and find out what rank you're guaranteed by using our system. So, what are you waiting for? Unlock your true potential and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. Alright, now let's talk about the speed you should be playing each round. And the most common mistake I see players making, even up to Immortal, is that players like to walk to the bomb site so the enemies don't know where to expect you to retake the site from. Now in theory this sounds great, but in reality there are only a few scenarios where walking to the site is actually the correct play. Now if you're the flanker who managed to get behind the enemies from another route, then you can slow walk to your position to try to pick up some free kills from the back whenever the enemies are taking over the site. But you do have to keep in mind if the enemy team has a Cypher or a Killjoy and you can't get past their utility without alerting them, then you've just slow walked and wasted a large portion of the round for nothing. Now another time it's okay to walk is if the majority of your team has already died and the bomb is already planted. And in this scenario it's you and maybe one or two more teammates and you're approaching the site looking for the retake together and the enemies are already set up in their post-plan positions. Now at this point there's nothing the enemy team has to set up anymore, so you're not really in a time crunch, and the more time you take, the more likely they are to get antsy and start peeking for kills. So this slow walking is super useful for keeping the element of surprise, giving the enemy time to make mistakes, and letting them start to question themselves and start watching the flanks and off angles that you could only come from after a long period of time. Now more importantly than when to slow walk is when not to slow walk. And this is one thing that I see lose multiple rounds on defender side each and every game. Now there are so many rounds I see where your teammate is fighting for control of the site alone, or maybe with one more teammate. Now in this situation it doesn't matter how much noise you make, being there to fight with your teammates is the most important thing in the round, because that puts pressure on the enemies to be coordinated and pull off a very risky site take. And what you want to do ultimately is put your opponents in a position to make mistakes, because that's easily one of the best ways to win rounds. And the other most common time when you should not be walking is before the bomb is planted. Now there are two different sections when it comes to taking a site as an attacker. The initial site take, where they're clearing the site and checking corners and getting the bomb down. And then there's the post plan, where they're setting up their utility and running to their post plan positions that they want to hold from. Now in a perfect world scenario when you're retaking, you want to catch the enemies off guard when they're trying to set up in their post plan positions and they're trying to get the bomb down. This is like when the Phoenix is trying to get to an aggressive angle to hold his flash, the Killjoy is setting up her utility, and things like that. But with your team slow walking to the site, it stops you from catching the enemies off guard. And instead, you have to take the fight where the Phoenix is already in position waiting to flash, and everyone is in their preferred positions to hold from. When instead, you could have just made all of the noise that you wanted and got there before the enemies got set up. Because honestly, if you're coming from anywhere that a common retake spot is going to come from, like anywhere on the CT side of the map, then whenever the enemies get set up, they're going to be watching that area that you're going to be coming from anyway. So it's best to just get there quickly and get out onto the site and start your retake before the enemies get ready. Alright, so next let's talk about how many enemies are alive, because knowing that and understanding the different angles of the site lets you be able to predict pretty accurately where the enemies are actually going to be playing. Now this can get complicated, but usually it's very simple. The easiest areas to reach are going to be the most common ones played, and the more enemies are alive, the more they're going to spread out from those areas because no one wants to be cramped 5 men into one position. Now the easiest way to explain this is going to be looking at an in-game example, so let's take a look at Split. So B-side on Split, there are two main ways to enter the site, through Garage or B-main, or to come through B-heaven. Now let's think about B-main. If the enemies have 2 people alive and they came through B-main, you can almost guarantee if you got there as or shortly after the bomb was planted that both players are going to be playing either backside or behind the pillar. This is because one person has to plant, and the other has to watch the planter to make sure nothing goes wrong and he doesn't get peeked while he's planting, because if the planter dies, then the round gets a lot more complicated. And from there, pushing for an aggressive angle after the bomb goes down is usually pretty risky because you don't know when the enemies are actually going to be coming. But if the attackers take the site through B main and have 4 to 5 people alive, you can almost guarantee that they're either already or going to try and take control of CT or Hell, because 4 to 5 people cramped back site and pillar is a recipe for disaster for any team because a utility dump kills or damages multiple people. And if they aren't fighting for control of those areas, one person is definitely going to be lurking and trying to come up to B heaven, because someone on the team has to be playing an uncommon angle. So the more people are alive, expect the unexpected. And this is applicable to every bomb site on every map. So like C site on Haven. The last thing the enemies clear whenever they're pushing the site is the back of site near the metal platform. Now if your team shows up and starts the retake as or right after the bomb is planted, you can almost guarantee that someone is going to be playing back there because someone has to go deep to actually clear that area, and if you don't give them time to reposition, then they have to be there, right? And this goes for every bomb site on every map, so the best way to learn this skill is as you're rotating to the site that the enemies are taking, take a look at how many people are still alive, and make a guess where you think each person is going to be playing. Now you don't have to spend a lot of time doing that, but as you do it over and over, you'll get better and faster at making those predictions. And retakes are going to be much simpler for you because you're going to know what to expect. Alright, next up, let's talk about isolating sections of the site. Because rushing into the site as a team, splitting up, and trying to take control of everything at one time creates a small amount of pressure everywhere, where if someone on your team dies, then the entire plan now has a weakness. When instead, you could have isolated a chunk of the bomb site, pressured that area heavily, and from there, use that control to take over the rest of the bomb site. So let's take a look at another in-game example to see how this looks. A site on Haven can often be a difficult area to retake, because there are difficult angles to clear, while enemies can peek you from long and short at the same time. So with that being said, how do you isolate the bomb site? Now, if your Brimstone or Omen still has smokes available, they can smoke off the right side of the box on site. So it cuts off all angles from the right side of that box and short, and once you clear close right angle, you can clear out Hell, and once you take care of that, you only have to fight forward and worry about 2 angles, long and short. Now if you don't have smokes available, most utility will actually work. A raised grenade, a Roomba, a molly, anything that you have at your disposal that an enemy doesn't want to get hit by. Just throw that into an area where you don't want the enemies to peek from. Now it might not last as long as a smoke, but it does almost guarantee that they're not going to peek out through it. So you may not have as much time, but you're a little safer while it's going off. Now if all else fails though, and you don't have any utility to try and help retake the site, one simple tactic you can use is to keep your back to a wall. This way you're keeping most of the problem angles in front of you, and you can almost guarantee that you're not going to be caught terribly off guard when clearing out the site. And this isn't always the perfect strategy because as you clear angles you can start to use that room you've taken over, but most of the time this tactic will do you wonders in keeping you in a good position. Alright, now we've come to arguably the most important part of the video, critical areas for retakes. Now I will preface this by saying, if you only have 2 people alive, you and someone else, just play together. There's almost no reason to split up and go for a hero play. But regardless, critical areas of the site are a must for being able to retake a site successfully. Now the easiest and most common mistake I see is people trying to retake a site unsplit. Now most people see A site and think that Heaven sees over all of A site, so it must be the best area to retake from, right? Well, Heaven does have vertical advantage, and it gives you the opportunity to get picks if the enemies decide to peek. But when it comes to retaking the site, Heaven is one of the worst areas to actually play. This is because the enemies on site aren't forced to fight you. You can't clear out Hell, ramp, screens, or elbow, and dropping off of Heaven is the sound cue that everyone playing the site, ramp, or screen should peek immediately and take that free kill. Screens, however, is the most important area to actually retake from, because it can clear most of Hell, and if they're playing there, you can actually see the top of their head so they're free kills, and it allows you to peek ramp and hold them if they decide to push out. And it also gives you the best entrance onto site as possible, elbow. Now this is such a good area to retake from that if possible, 2 people should almost always go to screens to start the retake. Now if there are more people alive, one person should go to Heaven just to peek and look for kills and hold while his teammates take the site. And if there are more people alive, feel free to go to ramp to try your luck, because worst case scenario, you're taking pressure off of your teammates retaking site. Or you can always just double up in Heaven and make sure you get those kills if the enemies decide to peek, and if anyone pushes from ramp or Hell, then you can pick up that kill as well. And this goes for all bomb sites on all maps. Now B site bind is regarded as the most difficult site to retake in the game, But if you have two teammates go elbow, clear very slowly while your teammates enter from CT, the site gets so much easier to retake. And there are areas like this for every bomb site of every map. There's U-Haul on A site, Tree Room on A side Ascent, Garage on Haven for C site, coming out of Garage into bottom mid for B side of Haven, and so on and so forth. Now these areas are all so important that you should be taking a partner with you to clear out and ensure that you're going to have that area to work off of for a retake. Now one of the biggest problems I see in Valorant is that people work with the area that they have that is safe, and they end up all funneling out of that same area as their teammates into their death, when instead you could take control of better areas with your teammate so you can come out of separate areas at the exact same time and put the enemies in a position to actually make a mistake. Now in this first clip, we have a clinical retake from Hiko where it starts off with him and his Omen taking control of a valuable position, Heaven. But with so many people left alive on the enemy team that's unaccounted for, he's too nervous about the flanks, and with the Omen pushed forward, he's essentially left alone in Heaven. Now this is very important because it's better to give up a crucial position like that than to try to fight it alone. So Hiko decides to support his teammates instead. He rotates all the way around to the CT entrance to B site, and with the Cypher dying on the entry, Hiko has no choice but to try and trade that kill out. Now the Phoenix does decide to run to Hell to hold for the Heaven push, which is an extremely risky push, and he would have probably just been better off playing to trade off of Hiko, but Phoenix essentially isolates the site for Hiko, and all Hiko has to do then is fight forward, and by winning this one duel and picking up the kill on the Omen, it makes the other people on the enemy team get desperate and start to peek, which leads to the domino effect of deaths that end the round. So remember, it's better to give up a crucial position to play with your teammates. And the second retake I wanted to take a look at comes from Hiko as well, but it just goes to show how you're supposed to play around a teammate that's lurking. Now Hiko takes his time going to the site because he knows they're going to wait on their lurking Cypher before they push anyway. This allows him to clear all of his angles carefully and check for the lurker, which actually picks him up a kill on the enemy Cypher and lets the retake happen properly. So at this point they've made enough noise to where they don't actually have to peek from CT, and they can just let their Cypher get the opening kill. And Hiko does this properly, but the Phoenix was on a different page and runs into his death for no reason. Now Hiko still decides to just sit and play CT, jiggling back and forth, making sure not to die, until his Cypher actually picks up the entry kill on the Phoenix playing in Cubby. Now this prompts Hiko to go aggressive as well, and this round is cleaned up beautifully. Which just goes to show, if Hiko can be patient enough to let his teammate try to make a difference, you should be too. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com. The link is in the description below. But just like everything else, the more you put yourself into these positions, the better you'll get at them. So make your predictions and try your best to implement these strategies, because over time it's going to get easier and easier. And as always, let us know what you have the most trouble with and what you want to see next in the comments below. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn those notification bells on, because we here at SkillCapped have a ton more comprehensive premium guides coming your way that you're going to want to stay up to date with so you can stay ahead of the pack. As always, we want to thank you for spending this little bit of your day with us, and I'm Notorious Dub, signing off.